Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. I'm going to interject my financial opinions as we go. And if you need help with anything, check out finding-value.com, where I dive deeper into the companies and sectors that I think look good and look for potential opportunities. And then you get to see how I'm positioning in those companies and what my portfolio looks like. We've got a midweek update on Wednesdays and question and answer sessions on the weekends. So let's dive in here. Let's take a look. Let's see what's going on. We're starting with the dollar here, and the dollar has broken the downtrend here to the upside. That's already in the past. And then when we zoom in, I still think that this has the potential to break to the upside, which means we could see most likely stronger yields and stronger DXY, because the DXY seems like it gets priced off of the monetary tightness or looseness that the currency is being compared against. The 2-year yield down a little bit, but I'm not convinced that this is going lower on a longer term basis. We still have big green candlesticks. We've got resistance right where we're at. Oops, wrong one. Right where we're at. And we've just been trading back and forth. The selling pressure isn't throwing bearish engulfings. It's not really throwing anything in here. So I am still inclined to think at this moment that we could head higher on yields. 10-year yield also kind of just doing a retest here. We have not broken down yet. Makes me think that there could be strength that is still there until we start breaking through, which it could be soon. It very well could be, but we haven't broken through yet. And then the 30-year yield, yep, we were down a little bit. So the long end of the curve was down a little bit more than the shorter end. And we're still below resistance on the 30-year. So we very well could continue lower, and the 10-year's on support, and then the 2-year, it's really not selling off much. So that's the current state for yields. TYX, TNX ratio up a little bit, which means the 30-year went down more than the 10-year, and that's generally supportive of higher gold prices. Now, it's not a huge move today. So we're still inverted. We've been basically moving sideways here. When this uninverts and makes basically a move higher, that's generally when gold does very well. It's when it stops uninverting and starts going sideways. So this is your buy point here, and then your sell point would be, somewhere up at the top here. We've got bond prices up 0.84%. So we're moving up a little bit. The downtrend's still intact. You could say that maybe a trend line's broken here today. So again, let's see if that will continue. Bond prices going up and yields going down. It is a possibility, but we'll watch it. And then the 2 and 10 we inverted today for the 2 and 10. So the 2 didn't go down as far as the 10. Hence the inversion of the curve there. We've got gold moving sideways. Now, when I look at this, historically, this would be a flag pattern that wants to go lower in the short term. That's what I'm seeing. Silver up 0.8%, but again, this to me looks like a flag pattern that could drop lower. If this was a manipulation plunge protection team day, then we may not get the follow through like we normally would. So we'll see what occurs. We've got platinum ripping today. And I'm not so, I don't care about today and it going up almost 4%. I'm looking at the big picture view here, guys, and I'm looking at if we can break through this downtrend there. We break through that, I think we've got a long way to go. And what's good about platinum is We've done our huge consolidation. It ended here. We had that false breakout, slingshot out of the pattern, and we've been consolidating. Here's our retest there. We've been consolidating, consolidating, consolidating. And I think that we are very close, hopefully, to a breakout in platinum with hopefully a very big move. And that fractal looks very similar to the fractal that we have down here. It's almost the same setup. If we zoomed in, you've got your three hump consolidation here, broke down, came in, and then we squeezed again and broke out there. We have the same setup, very similar setup moving over here, where you've got your three hump consolidation. This here is this whole guy there. We came on down. This was just all sideways movement. And then this section there is occurring right, I think, right where we're at. So that's kind of the fractals that's going on there. Palladium also higher today, up about 2.5%. Pretty good spot here to be looking. But this probably has a little bit more basing out to do. And because we're trying to work off all this momentum, selling pressure momentum. Platinum's got that all basically based out and worked out. XE to gold ratio, the gold and silver mining companies outperforming gold today. We are up higher, and that looks really good. And we could see gold and silver mining companies start to fly here at any point. Big, big move. We've got the yield curve inverted, which is positive for precious metals. And I would think it's going to be positive for gold and silver mining companies. Looks really good. CRB index down a little bit. I know oil was down a little bit. So we're hitting some resistance here. And we'll see if we can break higher. Right now, we're getting some short-term selling pressure. CRB to S&P 500, we're getting a little bit of a pullback here, where the CRB is underperforming. That's what it looks like. We've got GDX up a little bit, trying to break through its resistance downtrend line, and it's looking good here, guys. I think we're going to rip, and it could be a very big move for the gold and silver mining companies. GDXJ is already broken out. It's just chilling there, but I think it looks good. Flag pattern's kind of broken to the upside. It doesn't look bad. Then we've got SILJ also that's broken its pattern to the upside, and I still think it looks very good. There's your flag pattern. It's working its way on up. We've got crude oil down 1.35%. This could work its way a little bit lower if momentum continues. We do have kind of a flag pattern that has developed here. It's not a huge pattern, and maybe we get down here before working our way on up. But it looks good from a longer term perspective. We're sitting on top of all these support levels. So I don't think we're going to break through any of those support levels. And maybe we get one last kind of selling ditch effort in here. Maybe. TTF gas down a little bit above a lot of support. I think it looks good to go higher. We've got natural gas in America up 6.19%. It's looking good from today. Looks like we could potentially go higher. We're at a little over $2 an MMBTU now. That looks pretty good. We've got our boy XOP. Yeah, you know me, heading up about 0.63%. And this is what it looks like kind of zooming out. We're above the neckline. It looks good from a longer term perspective. The weekly doesn't look too bad. The daily, the only thing I'll say with the daily is we kind of fell here. We got all these little up days. And it's tough to read here which direction we're going to go. If it's going to do another like bounce, or if we're just going to go and rip higher. So I think a lot's going to depend on where crude oil goes. We've got OIH also up today. We have a couple of bullish candlesticks here and here, two bullish engulfings. That generally works its way higher. We haven't seen the follow through yet. Possibility that this could sell off is still there, as this is another pattern where we could come back to this level down here. So in the short term, roll the dice, guys. It depends what crude oil does, and we can go in either direction in the short term. Longer term, I think we're definitely going higher. So this is kind of the longer term here. We've been just working our way up with higher highs and higher lows, and I do think we'll work our way on up. The path in the short term is the unknown here. We've got the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust. We are up today, 1.73%. Are we still going to get follow through to the downside, or are we going to start to work our way on higher? That's where the short term, I don't like trading short term stuff because it is impacted by everything, emotions, news, whatever it is. So I look at this and I'm like, okay, let's just back out a little bit. You back out, we hit some resistance here. There's some resistance there, and we hit it. We came back, and a lot of the times you cycle back around. So on a longer term basis, I understand we hit some resistance. We could even come back here. That is still a possibility, but I'm just not betting on it. So there is some weakness, but we could overcome it, and we'll see what occurs. The uranium equities don't look as bad. So it muddies the waters here. This looks pretty good. We were up quite a bit today, about almost 3%, and we're in an uptrend, higher highs and higher lows. So I don't really want to do anything. I don't want to trade. I don't want to try to time this stuff, and it could be developing a kind of a pattern that looks like this. Let me do something like this. No, it could be developing something like that where we squeeze up and break out, much like this pattern that we created there. So I think that's what's occurring. We're in a consolidation. It could consolidate a little bit further, but I'm not in the camp that this thing is just going to crash. URANIUM also breaking to the upside. We hit some resistance here. And today, we have a pretty nice candlestick, and it closed quite strong. I mean, this could continue to follow through and move higher. It doesn't look too bad. And URNJ also looking very strong. It closed strong too. Last trading session, we had a bullish engulfing that generally works its way higher, and today we got some follow through. Muddies the waters again because we've got the Sprott Physical Uranium Trust putting in kind of a bearish-ish pattern. So people are going to say, well, what should I do? What should I? And this is where I say the short term, you shouldn't be worried about the short term. Adopt a longer time frame. So I'm going to kind of just delete this here, draw in a potential, a different, pattern here, and that's kind of what I see there. Is we're squeezing on up into a corner here, and it could break. So we might cycle one more time, 1, 2, and maybe it does that for the third. Sometimes these break right out, so it doesn't have to cycle back, but it looks okay. And I'm not doing anything. Let this thing rip. Let it rip, baby. TAN up about 2%. It likes the lower yields, but we are underneath a lot of resistance. We've got copper just continuing to rip. Now, some people are going to say, oh, it's the RSI or MACD or something's at some high level. Well, it's going to be at a high level when you hit shortages of a commodity. So what I do is I don't try to time the short term. Let this thing rip. You guys should already be positioned in this before it. And the reason I would be positioned before it is because we see the deficits out in the future. They're big. So we should be holding on. And some of the diversified mining companies that sell a bunch of copper, they haven't really ripped too much yet because iron ore is down. And some of these other base metals haven't broken out yet, which are larger portions of their business. COPX up about 1%, looking pretty good. I bet you it's feeling good if you own it. And bigger picture view, guys, to me, this is a double bottom. This was your ideal entry point. was the retest. Came on up, squeezed on up, and now we're breaking to the upside. And I would assume that COPX is going to go up along with copper futures pricing. Lithium getting a pretty big move today at 5%, likes the weaker dollar, weaker yields. This actually looks pretty good. We could get some follow through here, and we could be breaking to the upside here. So this looks pretty strong for lithium. We've got REMX also up quite aggressively today, about 4.4%. We've had this breakdown here, this kind of pattern, and we'll see if we get follow through and can break through some immediate resistance above us. The S&P 500, it's still hanging on, surprisingly. And this is what we've got, but you could say that this is kind of a potential bearish type pattern. Again, we'll see. I'm not putting anything in this. I'm not betting on the S&P 500 going down. I don't really care what it does. But right now, I would still be looking at it from a bearish mindset. NASDAQ also, we have a big bearish engulfing pattern there and a weaker bounce that generally, to me, screams that we could still sideways or lower until we turn this thing around. KRE down a little bit today, but it still looks pretty good, and we're right underneath resistance. We've got emerging markets, likes that weaker dollar yields, ripping here. Now, if they lower yields, I do think this could rip, but I don't think they can lower yields because they're gonna spark inflation they're gonna spark monetary inflation from all the bank lending that would come if they did lower rates. So this is an interesting mix that the Federal Reserve is in. XHB also liking those lower rates. We've got a lot of downside momentum here, and we'll see if this is kind of a continuation pattern lower like the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ and all the interest rate sensitive assets. MU also moving higher. Looks like this is kind of like a retest. It actually looks pretty good today. Pretty strong buying pressure. We're probably bottoming here. So I think MU it's looking better. It's turning around. Lots of selling pressure here. There is still the possibility that we're at support. My guess is that it'll hold here. We've got iron ore up 5.9%. It's this candlestick up there. I think iron ore is bottoming. This looks very strong to me. We could really rip here. So some of the copper plays that people missed, diversified mining companies that do a lot of iron ore, I think it's good entry points. We've got nickel also looking pretty strong here. That's definitely wanting to go higher. So that looks real strong for nickel. Aluminum also up 1% today. Also a good, strong kind of movement here. And, I don't try to time this short-term little market movement, even though I might make comments on it. And yes, we could go lower because we've got a bearish engulfing here. It struggled to come up. That's kind of almost like a double top. And then we may come down like that, back to support. All possible. But what if I just don't care about that and just ride this thing on up? That's where my thought is. Baltic Dry Index down a little bit, but again, I think we're going to go up. We're going to go up with iron ore. We're going to go up with coal. So I think eventually that'll work its way on up. Newcastle coal up a little bit. We've broken the downtrend line. I would be positioning in coal companies, and that is where I would be doing it. Yes, or down here, and should be looking at the coal equities to see if they're bottoming. BTC down a little bit, about 1%. It's still working its way. It's trying to consolidate. We came out of the pattern to the downside, and it's just sitting there and not really doing much at this time. And then Ethereum's down a little bit more, 2.4%. Is this some sort of consolidation where we could sell off? Tough to say here because the NASDAQ does look weak, and it does look like these could drop. But we also have a lot of candlesticks on the bottom here, a lot of wicks. That means people are buying it up. So when you get into situations like this, you don't try to trade everything. You wait for the setup to be clear, clean, And if you're trading, you take the entry point. You don't trade every single movement. So your trading point, if I were to look at this, is you've got all this downside momentum here. Then you come on up, and then you look for something that's similar to the price down here, and then your entry point should be in here. Then you should be riding it, riding it, riding it, riding it, riding it. That's the way I would play it. I wouldn't try to trade the short-term little market movements that we get, all, these small little market movements. SMCI, we're up 3.84% today. We've got tons of selling pressure all through this thing. And then we're starting to try to come on up. I just wouldn't be here, guys. I wouldn't. This is a no trade move to me. The reason it is it's overvalued, and I don't know why someone would try to go long here. Same with NVIDIA. It's overvalued, and I just don't want to be a part of it. Bearish engulfing's all over this place. They're all over it. So that screams to me like we want to go lower, although the price has been moving up a little bit in the short term. So that's what I've got for today, guys. Give me a thumb up for the content. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website. We still have LEAP coupon code going on, LEAP. When we hit May, it's going to change. Same discounts, but we'll call it May Day. Mayday, May Day. So that will change in May when that comes. And right now, that's all I've got. So we'll catch you guys later. This is Finding Value.